Namaste and welcome to our continuing series, The Life Divine with Ranganath. We are on the chapter Indeterminates, Cosmic Determinations and the Indeterminable on page number 322, and we had finished explaining half of the paragraph, and we begin from finally we discover, and we explain from there.
Today we'll follow a slightly different method because we have come to half the para. So what I'll do, I'll tell you what he is saying in the para itself. So it will be a sort of summary so that you will get and then we'll pick up from that finally. Okay? So the chapter is about from where is the universe coming. There is a consciousness acting and there is also a law acting. So there is a sort of variation, a chance, and there is also a certain law. Everything is following a law, okay? Very, very clear and very, very fixed laws are there. At the same time, there is a variation. So we have to give that example. In physics, there is absolutely, you can forecast things because there is a law. An eclipse can happen even 100 years afterward, but you know the process, so you can say exactly after any number of years, you can say that eclipse will happen exactly at this time because there is law. There is no variation. But at the same time, you see variation. When an animal is producing several offspring, they are all of different natures. They are not all same. Okay? Even in human beings, brothers and sisters, they can be absolutely totally different. Okay? One can be fair, one can be dark, there can be even twins, all sorts of possibilities. So what is this mystery? From where is all this coming? So he says that when we examine matter itself and even life, we don't seem to find the solution. So where to find the solution? Should we go down? Then if you go down, it's even darker. So you can't go down. Subconscious and inconscious, you go down. So the only way is to go up. Okay? So how to go up is the question that was dealing with this one. So how to go beyond the mind? The answer is by silencing it. But how do you silence it? Again, there are several methods. One method is to concentrate. You concentrate only on one thing and not let the mind wander off here and there. When we try to concentrate on one thing, the mind wanders off. And it has to be caught like an animal and brought back again to the same thing. That's one way. The other way is to stand back and watch your thoughts. Okay? That's you. Start watching the thoughts. So you are the watcher and the thoughts are the watched. So then a separation comes. And then you have the experience of Purusha and Prakriti. You realize that you are not thinking, but thinking is happening automatically. So I'm coming back to the summary of what he's saying in this para. Then we come back to that finally. So how to go beyond the mind? By silencing it. How do you silence it? Two ways. So one is to concentrate and go on concentrating, eliminating all thoughts possible. The other way is to stand back from your thoughts. We can watch our body, we can watch our emotions, we can also watch our thoughts. We can watch our thoughts. I had a thought yesterday that I should go here, but I didn't go. I'm watching my thought. But you have to watch your thought while it is happening, simultaneously. If that you can do, then there is separation. There is the watched and the watcher. So then the experience, the mind becomes, your consciousness has come out. This silent mind could be a misnomer because the mind may go on having thoughts, but you have come out. Your mental Purusha has come out and it is silent. The consciousness has become silent. It is referred to as the silent mind because very often they also speak of the mind being dead. Kill the mind. Then you will see the reality. So that's one way of putting it. So now, then when you silence your mind, then we perceive a witness consciousness. A consciousness that is only watching, not judging, not making any valuation. Okay? A silent witness consciousness, watching, observing all movements of lower nature. Which is the lower nature? Your body, your vital and your mind. Nature, lower nature. Without judgment. Okay? You are just watching without any judgment. Uninvolved, objective, unconcerned. This is the condition of the witnesses. You call it the self, you call it the Brahman consciousness, you can call it the Atman, you can call it even Nirvana if you are a Buddhist. Okay. But then it rises higher and becomes Anumanta. You realize that you have given permission to the body, mind, life to do whatever it is doing. So you can be Anumanta, you become the supporter of the body, mind, life, you become the Bharta, Bhokta, finally you become the Ishvara. You become master of your own body, mind and life. Purusha graduates, grows from mere witness to master controller. There is a gradation. This is what he said in the para. So now we go back to the... Finally we discover that which observes all this is a mental being. It's a conscious Purusha, mental Purusha he calls it. Okay, supporting the mind substance and mind energy. Okay, so note this interestingly, supporting the mind substance. It's a substance, mind is a substance, and also it's an energy. The substance itself is the power. Okay, so you have to understand what he means. See, matter is a substance, but it's also power. No? We know now how to extract power from matter. But we don't see the power in matter, but science has discovered the method to bring out. Okay. Then, but can it bring out from any matter? No. It can bring out only from some matters. Uranium, plutonium, thorium, it can bring out all these things. Can it bring out energy from a stone? No. So, it's interesting. I'll make a small diversion. Mother had that play, the international conference, and all the top people from the world are in a boat, and the boat sinks, and they are all in a boat and journeying together. So the scientist says, we have discovered, that was Pavitra, and he says that we have discovered how to take energy out of some metals, but not all metals. Okay, we know how to get energy from wood. By burning it, we get the energy from wood. We know how to get energy from coal. We know how to get energy from uranium. But science has to discover the method of getting energy from any matter. Even from a stone, it should be able to get energy. That we have not yet been able to do. Okay, but the wind, now we know how to get energy from the wind also. How to get energy from the sun. So, substance and power always go together. That's what simply saying here. Even in the mind plane, there is a mental substance. It is very subtle, but it's a substance. And that substance is also power. Okay? We don't think usually of our thoughts having substance. We think of it as something abstract. It is not abstract. Okay? In our Indian philosophy, they say that suppose you are thinking or imagining a mountain, then the substance of your mental being takes the form of a mountain. Then you know that it's a mountain. Okay? And those who can watch mental thoughts, they know what you're thinking because they can see the forms of your thoughts. Okay? So, they were simply saying here. So, similarly, just as matter has got forms and also power, vital also has got forms and also power. Mental substance also has got forms and power. As it keeps going up and up, the forms start becoming less and less, but consciousness increases and power also increases until finally at the highest level, total consciousness and total power, no forms.
Oh, no forms at all.
No forms at all. Formlessness. Because form is limitation. So no limitation at all. This is the gradation that is there.
Is formlessness also substance?
Oh, okay. The substance is so subtle that you can say that it is no substance at all. That's why you don't call it substance anymore. You call it existence. When Sri Aurobindo talks of substance at the subtlest level, Indian philosophy calls it ether. Okay? And science says ether is so subtle that I can't even consider it to be a substance. So it's so subtle that it becomes like this. Okay? So it is formlessness, total formlessness. Mind substance and mind energy. So you realize that there is a mental being which is your individual mental Purusha. There is a mental consciousness which is universal. But there is also a individual mental consciousness. This you have to understand. Okay? So, take matter. It is universal, right? Even 10,000 million light years away, there is matter. It is universal. What about your body?
Individual.
It is matter, but it's an individual matter. Exactly in the same way, there is an individual vital and there is also an individual mind. And finally, there is even an individual soul. The divine is infinite and eternal, but there is an individual soul also. So, individuality is always there. Okay? So, this is what Swami is saying. And that individual mental being is watching the substance and supporting it. That's what he's saying. It's like, if you want to understand this, let's think of the sea. Okay? It's a universal, let us say, it could be anything. It could be matter, it could be, but I am giving an image of the sea. Vast, infinite, okay? Stretching everywhere, and a wave is forming in it. The wave is the mental individual. And the wave is born and it also dies down. But the sea is there all the time. So all mental beings, okay, they arise from the universal mental substance and also disappear into it. At the end of death, for a human being, the mind dissolves and goes back into the mental substance, universal substance. Just like our body also goes back into matter. It is burnt and becomes ashes and becomes part of universal matter. So that's what Swami is saying here. You realize that there is a mental being which is supporting the mind substance and mind energy. So finally we discover that which observes all this is a mental being. It's an individual mental being supporting the mind substance and mind energy at the individual level. Without this presence, this upholder and source of sanctions, they could not exist or operate. Your thoughts will not exist unless your individual mind is there. That's what he's saying. Okay? So, supporting the mind. Without this mental being or Purusha first appears as a silent witness, and if that were all, we would have to accept the determinations of mind as a phenomenal activity imposed upon the being by nature. So, a phenomenal activity, if that's all, he's saying, is that all? That means he's a witness consciousness which is watching and supporting the mental thoughts. Is that all? He will tell you, no, that's not all. But if that were all, then you would have to think that the determinations of mind, 3 words, but it only means a thought. Okay? A thought is a determination of the mind as a phenomenal activity. Phenomenal, something which is born and something which dies. An event. It's an event. Imposed upon the being by nature. Okay? It's like an image being thrown on the screen. The Purusha is a screen. It is eternal, watching, and the thoughts are being imposed upon it. Okay? But when we are in our normal consciousness, the screen which is you, think that I am having the thought, I am producing this image. Actually, it is not so at all. When the images become different, you watch, then you realize that you are the eternal screen. And that screen is the universal mental substance. And the thoughts are arising in that. Okay? So, that's what something is saying. This mental being or Purusha first appears as a silent witness. Only silent witness. It is not doing anything. And if that were all, we would have to accept the determinations of mind, that is thoughts, as a phenomenal activity imposed upon the being by nature. Because you feel that you are having the thoughts. When you separate yourself, you realize that you are not having the thoughts. The thoughts are occurring on their own. But now you see that you are also supporting the thoughts. You are yourself supporting the thoughts. So you are not only the silent witness. So what Srendra is going to say next, let us see. Okay? By Prakriti, or else as a creation presented to it by Prakriti. The world of thought which nature constructs and offers to the observing Purusha. This is also what the Sankhya philosophy says. Nature is producing thoughts, it is producing first of all physical forms, then it is producing vital forms, emotions, sensations, willings. These things are also created by nature. Then finally, mental substance. Just like the sea is producing waves, the mental substance also is the mental prakriti, universal nature, is producing thoughts and presenting them to Purusha for enjoyment. So this is what he is saying. With nature constructs and offers to the observing Purusha. But there is a small difference. It is not that the Purusha is absolutely unconcerned with the mental substance and the mental thoughts, and it is also guiding it. That's what he will tell you later, if you rise in consciousness. But afterwards we find that the Purusha, the mental being, can depart from its posture of a silent or accepting witness. Accepting means whatever is coming, you are accepting without reacting. But now you can also start reacting. That's what he will tell you. It can become the source of reactions. There you are. It can accept, reject, even rule and regulate. Become the giver of the command, the knower. So this is following the Sanskrit terms are, you become first of all you are the sakshi. You are only the witness. Then you become the source of the reactions. That means you are the bharta. You are actually supporting the substance. And then you get the power to either accept or reject. So you are the anumanta. You are the permission giver to your own nature. You are the permission giver. Finally, you can even rule and regulate. Rule and regulate, you start becoming master. Ruling and regulating, you become the knower, jnata. Become the giver of the command, the knower. So that's the jnata. Finally, you can become the master of everything. And knowledge also arises that this mind substance manifests the mental being, is its own expressive substance, and the mental energy is its own conscious force. So the individual mind realizes that it is a universal mind. That's what he seems to be saying. That all mental, 1 minute. And knowledge also arises that this mind substance manifests the mental being. The sea is manifesting the wave. The mind substance, the sea, manifesting the mental being, the limited wave, is its own expressive substance. The universal mind is expressing itself through its waves. That's what Stanley is saying. And the mental energy is its own conscious force. So the mental energy, everything is your own. So that it is reasonable to conclude that all mind determinations arise from the being of the Purusha. Now you realize that they are actually arising from your own individual mind. If you want to again go back to the image of the sea, all waves are not the same. So each wave is different height, different speed, different shape. So every individual is creating his own thoughts. That's what he is saying. All thoughts are not same. If it was universal producing, all thoughts will be the same, but they are not same. So you realize that first you are watching, then you realize that you are not only watching, but you have the power to also control everything when you go to a higher level of consciousness. So now that all mind determinations arise from the being of the Purusha. The being of the Purusha. But this conclusion is complicated by the fact that from another point of view, our personal mind seems to be a little more than a formation of universal mind. This is what you also realize, that finally you are thinking that I am producing the thoughts, but you are only a small part of universal mind. An engine for the reception, modification, propagation of cosmic thought waves, idea currents, will suggestions, waves of feeling, sense suggestions, sense form suggestions. It has no doubt its own already realized expression, predispositions, propensities, personal temperament and nature. I think we'll stop here because you have to go each sentence. Just now we spoke about each mental, your mental Purusha, I am a mental Purusha. You are being supported by universal mind, I am being supported by universal mind. But are we all therefore the same? No. There is an individuality and you are different from me. In other words, your thoughts will be different from my thoughts. Just like the waves, each wave, the length will vary, the height will vary, the speed will vary. Some there will be foam, some there won't be foam. So exactly that is what he is saying. Okay? There is a universal mind, but there are also individual minds, and each individual mind has got its own characteristics. The one sea becomes the many waves. Okay? So that's what he's saying. And you see that your individual mind is an engine for the reception, modification, propagation of cosmic thought waves, idea currents, will suggestions, waves of feeling, sense suggestions, form suggestions. So, in the synthesis, he has put this in a very interesting way. Okay, he has said something. Thoughts are coming to you from outside, and you can modify them and throw them out again into the universe. Okay, each wave disappears and becomes part of the sea. So exactly in the same way, a thought can come into your mind and you can modify it or not modify it. And the image that he has given in the synthesis is like this. Okay. Suppose India cannot make cars. In the beginning, you import cars fully made. So a thought which is finished thought comes into your mind and you think that you are thinking. This is one way. The other way is, now I can assemble parts. So I don't bring in full car, but I bring in parts and assemble them here. I am giving my workers some work to do, and also it becomes cheaper for me. So I do. In other words, thoughts come in raw form and you are putting them together and having your own thought. This is another. Then the next one is, I don't even want the parts. I want only raw materials. And then I manufacture the car in myself. So this also the individual mind can do. The individual mind can receive raw material, that is water of the sea, comes into the wave and the wave makes its own form. Okay? So this he has given in the synthesis, he has put it in this way, that you can import. It can come in as raw material, it can come in as semi-manufactured, it can come in as fully manufactured. And again, what are you doing? You are also exporting all these things. The wave is becoming part of the sea again. Now, this is a very interesting fact, because when people are doing research in science, one mind is thinking and his waves are going out, others are catching and doing the same research without the other person knowing. So this explains it, that these thought waves are going out into the universal mind, others are receiving, and also they are thinking that they are doing.
I experienced a lot of this when I was doing my dissertation, like when you're coming up with a thesis topic, you think it's your own and it's your own thing, but it's actually like you're getting raw material, mixing it, and then putting something new.
That's right.
And also something similar when I wanted to do transpersonal psychology. So during my undergraduation, I was just sitting one day and I was, contemplating I have to do something related to spirituality in psychology. So I called it spiritual psychology. I did not refer to any book or anything. And I thought it was my thought. And then, of course, you Google it and then there is a whole plethora of knowledge.
How did you call it? Because psychology is, it started in the West, but in India, they didn't even give it a name, because it was yogic psychology. Yoga psychology, they called it.
Right.
Okay, which is totally different from psychology in the West.
Yes.
Okay. Psychology in the West is used for all sorts of things, for studying the behavior of society, for studying what the police should do, how the police behave, all these things.
It's from the external point of view, whereas Eastern psychology is inner.
So this is what Srimad is describing. You can see very clearly. First, the mind, Purusha, stands back and watches. There is a separation from your body, mind, life, and you are watching and you feel that you have no connection. Then you realize a little later, as you rise in consciousness, that there is a connection. After all, it was my body. I have come out, my consciousness was lodged in the body. There is a connection. Then if there is a connection, maybe I have some influence on it. Then you become not only the witness, but you also become the permission giver. I have given permission to my body, mind, life to do these things, okay, including good and bad. Because from the divine point of view, there is no good and bad. There are only different intensities of action. That's all. Just like a soft wind and a strong wind. A strong wind destroys and you say it is bad, but a soft wind is very pleasant for you. So the pleasant and unpleasant is your interpretation. For the divine, there is no good and bad. There is all only force which is acting. So this is what you realize, and then finally you realize that you as part of the universe, you can become universal also, and you can also shape these thoughts and everything. You become a master. Okay? So this is what Sri Aurobindo is doing. He is sitting in Pondicherry here, and with his power, he is extending his consciousness and determining things in the world. Okay? We know several proofs are there, particularly two proofs. One is that famous case of John Kelly. He was being guided by Sri Aurobindo during the war, telling him to move out when a bomb is going to fall. He was being guided. So very clearly. And the other one is that very famous case of the Lost Footsteps. It's a book written by a Romanian. Okay, it was during the Romanian time when Sri Aurobindo came to him and explained to him that life is worth living, because he was contemplating suicide. But Sri Aurobindo came to him and explained to him everything. So we know that it was Sri Aurobindo because in the book itself he says, "You are coming and helping me so much." The Romanian is asking him, "But who are you?" Then he says, "I am Aurobin Dogos." That's how it is written in the book. Aurobin. And the next word, Dogos. So we know. And Sri Aurobindo is referred to all these things in Savitri also. He speaks of the prisoner in the dungeon. Very clearly he is referring to this case. Okay. So this is what you realize. So in the beginning you are separate. Then finally, slowly, you become master. Your consciousness becomes universal. There is no difference between your individual mind and the universal mind, and you become master. That's the process. That's what he's saying. Okay? It has no doubt its own already realized expression, predispositions, propensities, personal temperament and nature. Now this is very interesting. We'll just discuss this shortly. Every mind is made in a different way. Okay? So every body is also made in a different way. Every vital also is made in a different way. Why? Because Chit Shakti, which is the origin of all vitality, is one. But when it comes down, it breaks itself up into infinite possibilities. So everybody's vital is different, everybody's body is different, everybody's mind is different. Can I say that everybody's soul also is different? Because it is divine in essence. Yes, that is also true. Because each soul is given a swabhava. It has given a particular character, something to be done in the physical world. So, although there is essentially all souls are divine, yet they are subject to the law of the many. Okay? Just see, imagine very clearly, Mother and Sri Aurobindo both are divine, but Mother is into music and painting. And Sri Aurobindo is into poetry. He didn't have much of music in him. So, this is what Sri Aurobindo is saying here. It has no doubt its own already realized expression, predispositions, propensities, personal temperament and nature. Essentially one, but nature at the lower level is all different. Okay? And what comes from the universal can only find a place there if it is accepted and assimilated into the self-expression of the individual mental being, the personal prakriti of the Purusha. So, now he is making it very clear. The universal mind is sending thoughts into every individual mind. Is your individual mind big enough to accept all the thoughts? No. So some it rejects and some it maintains. That's what he's saying. Okay? So what comes from the universal can only find a place there in the individual if it is accepted and assimilated into the self-expression of the individual mental being. When a thought is coming and you don't understand it, you are not being able to accept it, nor are you being able to assimilate it. But when it comes in and you suddenly realize, oh, now I have understood, you have accepted it and you have assimilated it. It fits into your structure. Like a circle will not fit into a square hole, a square peg. So exactly in that way, your understanding means you have accepted and you have assimilated the meaning. Okay, so assimilated to of the individual being the personal prakriti of the Purusha. The personal prakriti of the Purusha. Usually, prakriti is your body, mind, life. Your Purusha is the soul, the consciousness. So, but the soul also has a nature of its own. That's the funny part, okay? The soul also has a nature of its own. Just now we discussed, every soul has got a different nature. So that is what he is saying, the personal prakriti of the Purusha. Okay? So, but still, in view of these complexities, the question remains entire whether all this evolution and action is a phenomenal creation by some universal energy presented to the mental being, or an activity imposed by mind energy on the Purusha's indeterminate, perhaps indeterminable existence, or whether the whole is something predetermined by some dynamic truth of itself within and only manifested on the mind surface. We'll try and understand this. Okay, so and this is the problem of Mayavad also, which is discussing here. He's saying that first you saw that there is a prakriti going on and you are separate from it. Okay, then that's a Sankhya philosophy, that prakriti is creating all these forms and throwing them, your thoughts, your emotions and everything, on the indeterminable screen of your mental being. It is throwing. And you think that you are acting, you are thinking, you are having emotions. Then when you separate yourself, you realize that you are not doing anything. So what is the reality? What is the truth? Is it that Purusha and Prakriti are eternally separate and they are interacting with each other? So this evolution is coming from where? Is it coming from below or is it coming from above? This is something that you cannot determine, okay, at the mental level. At the spiritual level of the consciousness, which we call level 2. Level 1, you can think of it as the normal consciousness of man. He has a body, he has a vital, and he has a mind, and he is limited to that. That you can call level 1. You are a normal man. But level 2 is a spiritual plane of consciousness where your soul has come out of your body, mind, life, and it realizes that it is separate from the body, mind, life. That's where the problem comes in. Which is the reality? You don't know. Okay? There is a big problem. So you have to go even higher up. The next paragraph, it goes to the overmind consciousness, and there can you find the truth of the universe. From where is it coming? How is it coming? So that's the next one that we have to read. So now, first in matter you could not find the solution. You don't go to the subconscious. You come up to life, no solution. You come to the mental level. He has described in great detail the mental activities, and you feel yourself to be separate, but you also feel that you can be master of it. So the question arises, have I created this universe, or has matter created and thrown this image upon my mind? This is the problem. Okay? So you go to the overmind consciousness. So the overmind consciousness is such a state or principle beyond individual mind. Okay? It is beyond individual mind, beyond even universal mind in the ignorance. So you have what you call the transcendent consciousness. The transcendent is you are outside the universe. You feel that you are outside the universe. Overmind consciousness is the highest plane of the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness. Above the overmind, you are going to the third level of the supermind. So this is fundamentally different. Okay? So overmind consciousness is such a state or principle beyond individual mind, beyond even universal mind. Individual mind is level 1, your normal, our mind. Beyond even universal mind, level 2, the spiritual planes of consciousness, in the ignorance. It carries in itself a first direct and masterful cognition of cosmic truth. So, you have much more of truth you see. But can the problem be solved? That's what he will tell you. Here then, we might hope to understand something of the original working of things. From where is all this universe coming? What is the origin of all these things? And we may get some insight into the fundamental movements of cosmic nature. One thing indeed becomes clear. It is self-evident here that both the individual and the cosmos come from a transcendent reality which takes form in them. So this much you have been able to understand, that the individual has come from the universe and the universe also has come from some higher thing. This much now is clear when you go to the overmind consciousness, not before that. Before that you have a problem. Okay? So, takes form in them. The mind and life of the individual being itself in nature must therefore be a partial self-expression of the cosmic being, and both through that and directly a self-expression of the transcendent reality. A conditional and half-veiled expression it may be, but still that is its significance. But also we see that what the expression shall be is also determined by the individual himself. Now that's interesting, okay? So, only what he can in his nature receive, assimilate, formulate, his portion of the cosmic being or of the reality, can find shape in his mind and life and physical parts. Something that derives from the reality, something that is in the cosmos he expresses, but in the terms of his own self-expression, in the terms of his own nature. But the original question set out for us by the phenomenon of the universe is not solved by the overmind knowledge. The question in this case, whether the building of thought, experience, world perception of the mental Purusha, the mind Purusha, the mental person, the mind Purusha is truly a self-expression, a self-determination, proceeding from some truth of his own spiritual being, a manifestation of that truth's dynamic possibilities, or whether it is not rather a creation or construction presented to him by nature, by Prakriti, and only in the sense of being individualized in his personal formation of that nature, can it be said to be his own or dependent on him. Or again, it might be a play of a cosmic imagination, a fantasia of the infinite imposed on the blank indeterminable of his own eternal pure existence. These are the three views of creation that seem to have an equal chance of being right, and mind is incapable of definitely deciding between them. For each view is armed with its own mental logic and its appeal to intuition and experience. Overmind seems to add to the perplexity, for the overmental view of things allows each possibility to formulate itself in its own independent right and realize its own existence in cognition, in dynamic self-presentation, in substantiating experience. So I'll tell you what the problem is, and then next time we can discuss it in detail. So what he is saying is that even when you go to the cosmic concept, in the lower levels you don't find the solution at all. Okay? What is the reality? Is it matter? You don't seem to understand anything, you don't. Then life is there. From where is life coming? It's still a mystery. Mind also is coming. So who is creating all this? So you don't know, so you keep climbing in consciousness until you come to the overmind consciousness. In the overmind consciousness you realize that there is a transcendent. But the problem is not solved. And three views are possible. Which is the first view? Matter is the reality and producing. That's a materialistic view. It's very clear that matter is producing life. Okay? All living creatures are coming from matter. Not a single living creature is without matter. So matter is producing life. And man also is, there is matter in him, there is life in him, and there is a mind in him. So it is matter that is creating. This is one view you can have, the materialist view. But when you go to the spiritual plane of consciousness, you realize that this is all illusion. There is nothing. It is that subtle reality which is there. But you still don't know the origin. But that is the reality and this is the falsehood. So when you go to the overmind consciousness, you realize that the second level and the first level are created by the third level. But you have still not realized the third level. You know that there is a transcendent. So that's a third view. So first view, matter is the determinant. Second view, matter is not the determinant. There is a consciousness and the images are being thrown on this is the Mayavada philosophy. First is the material philosophy. The second is the Mayavada philosophy. Images are being thrown on the blank, indeterminable screen of the mental Purusha. And you are in ignorance. When you separate yourself, you realize that you are the screen. You are the pure, featureless, indescribable screen, and all these activities being thrown on you, you think you are doing. That's a Mayavada philosophy. But now in the overmind consciousness, you say, no, this also is produced by something else and this also is produced by something. That's a third view. Which is the truth? That you can know only when you go to the supermind. You can't know it even at the overmind level. So Sri Aurobindo's overmind level is such a high level of consciousness. Still, it's a field of ignorance. That's what he's saying. It's important to get the basic idea of what he's saying, but it's also important to see how he expresses himself, because every time he expresses himself, he adds a little bit of color and more understanding to what you have to. It's difficult. The language is very difficult, but it adds a little more to our understanding. This was the problem, and in one letter he writes to Dilip Kumar Roy. He says, Dilip Kumar Roy is saying, oh, I have so many doubts and I don't know. I feel that I'm progressing, but still there's a doubt. All this. He says, what doubt you're talking about? I had gigantic doubts. This is what he's talking about. What is the origin of the universe? So his doubts got completely solved when he had glimpses and realizations also of the supermind.